Welcome back. In June, Ireland is likely to elect a person of Indian origin as Prime Minister. Leo Varadkar is half Indian, half Irish. He's currently a minister, and in socially conservative Ireland, declared he was gay 2 years ago.
An Indian American in the White House is what the North American diaspora is looking forward to in some decades from now. But Ireland appears all set to elect the first Indian origin Prime Minister who is also openly gay. Leo Varadkar is 50-50, meaning his father is Indian and his mother Irish. He's a doctor by profession but opted for politics and is currently Minister for Social Protection. In this video, he talked about what politics means to him.
It's about building a coalition for change. It's about making a difference and changing people's lives.
Varadkar won the support of 45 out of 71 members of the ruling Fine Gael parliamentary party last weekend and is widely expected to win when the elections are held on 2nd of June.
I want to make Fine Gael a fighting force again. I want to broaden our appeal.
Varadkar is campaigning for same-sex marriage and liberalising abortion laws. He also favours a tight fiscal policy. Varadkar may appear a surprising frontrunner in socially conservative Ireland, but he also represents a generational shift towards a more secular society, particularly in Dublin and other urban areas. Bureau Report, WION.
Joining us with more is Pat Leahy, political editor of the Irish Times, with us from Dublin, and Mandy Clark, WION's London bureau chief, someone who's lived in and reported from Ireland for many years before this. Good evening to both of you. Pat, tell us more about Mr. Varadkar.
Well, he's something of a political superstar, at least in the making here. He's young, he makes the point himself. He's only 38, which is the average age in the youngest, demographically the youngest country in Europe. Feeling among many in his own party that his time has come now. The older generation is in the ruling Fine Gael party is retiring. Mr. Varadkar is head over heels the favourite to succeed Enda Kenny, the current Prime Minister, first as leader of his party in an election that will take place next week, and then to be ratified by Parliament as Ireland's youngest Prime Minister ever by far. That vote will take place in June.
Mandy, what have you heard? How strong are his chances, and what is it that works the most in his favour?
Well, you know, as you pointed out, Ireland has been socially conservative, but there is a very young cohort that are ready for change, and I think that's what he represents. He's young, he's good looking, he's full of energy. His chances seem to be very, very strong, and it's a fresh new face for Ireland, and it seems that they're ready for it.
Pat, in a country as conservative as Ireland, would the election of a gay man to the highest office, that of the Prime Minister, be a major turning point?
10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I think it would have been unthinkable. But while there are some parts of Ireland and some aspects of, political and public culture in Ireland which remain conservative, and by European standards, I suppose it remains a reasonably religious and conservative country, Ireland has liberalised hugely in the last 10 or 20 years. Just 2 years ago, Ireland became the first country in the world to vote to legalise gay marriage in a popular referendum, not a vote of Parliament, a popular referendum. Mr. Varadkar came out as a gay man in the course of that referendum, and it kind of turbocharged his political popularity, particularly with younger voters, I think. And, we know from looking at politics all over the world right now that people are candidates that can pose as the candidate of change, tend to do very well. And for many people in Ireland, particularly in his party, which would be regarded as the most conservative of Irish parties, Mr. Varadkar represents that sort of change that they believe many voters want to see.
Mandy, is he then the face of the new Ireland?
Very much he could be. As Pat pointed out, the country is changing, but I noticed on a bus just a few years ago, you pass by a Catholic church and people still cross themselves, so that it's very much ingrained in their culture. But I think it's ready for change, and he is this, he represents another side of Ireland. People do think of Catholicism and conservatism and pubs when they think of Ireland, but certainly he is a fresh change. And that is another face of Ireland that the world is getting to see now.
Another issue, Pat, in Ireland is racism. How is it that a half-Irish man is on his way to becoming, potentially, the Prime Minister? How is it playing out politically?
Well, I think one of the remarkable things about it, while there is lots of coverage about it in the press, all the coverage tends to be about how there isn't any coverage about it, if you know what I mean. It's so far really being a non-issue in the campaign. And, Ireland has not seen the sort of popular or overt racism that other comparable European countries have seen. Partly, that used to be, I think, because the numbers of immigrants here were quite small, but that has grown in the last 10 or 15 years. There's now quite a visible and demographically populous immigrant community here. Mr. Varadkar's father, who's Indian, belongs to a much older wave of immigrants here, and particularly many of them who ended up working as doctors and nurses in the health service here. But, he himself is a Dublin native. He went to school here. He speaks with a Dublin accent, and while he's obviously of mixed race heritage, he's also identifiably Irish. And really, his ethnic heritage, I think, adds a touch of interest to him for many people, adds a touch of the exotic, and seems to me, at any rate, to be kind of an advantage.
All right, Mandy, how do you see this? A half-Indian man getting this kind of political momentum, even acceptance?
Well, I think the key is that he did grow up in Dublin, that he is, in many ways fully Irish, and he understands Irish issues. He would have gone through the Celtic Tiger and, of course, the slump, so he understands where Ireland needs to go to. And I think that is the benefit of being born and raised and immersed in the Irish culture. So in that way, it does help that he, even though he does have, he's half Irish, he's not fully Irish, and there might be, parts of the population who take issue with it. It's heartwarming to see that it hasn't been a major issue, or there's been no political point scoring over people claiming to be more Irish than him. So it's a nice, refreshing change when reporting on politics.
Indeed. Pat Leahy, Mandy Clark, thanks very much for joining us here on Gravitas.